What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about WWE supremacy was a lie? What if the man you've been cheering for, the so-called face of the company, the 16-time world champion who preaches hustle, loyalty, and respect, was exposed as nothing more than a corporate puppet who crumbled when real dominance walked through the curtain? I'm talking about the night Brock Lesnar didn't just beat John Cena at Wrestlepalooza, he systematically destroyed everything Cena stood for, and guess what? The WWE Universe sat there and watched their hero get dismantled like a child in a schoolyard fight. This wasn't wrestling, this was a public execution, and if you think Cena ever recovered from this humiliation, you haven't been paying attention. Before we dive into the most brutal beating in WWE history, smash that subscribe button because we're about to expose truths that the WWE machine doesn't want you to remember. Let me set the scene for you. Wrestlepalooza, the event that was supposed to cement John Cena's legacy as the greatest of all time. The promotional packages showed Cena training harder than ever, cutting promos about how he'd overcome every obstacle, defeated every monster, conquered every challenge. The WWE marketing machine was in full force, selling us the narrative that this was Cena's moment to prove once and for all that he was untouchable. But here's what they didn't tell you, here's what they conveniently left out of those glossy video packages. Brock Lesnar doesn't care about your storylines, he doesn't care about your scripted outcomes, and he certainly doesn't care about protecting the Golden Boy's image. When Paul Heyman promised that Lesnar would eat Cena alive, everyone thought it was typical wrestling hyperbole. Turns out, Heyman was underselling it. From the moment the bell rang, Cena was in a fight he had no business being in. The first German suplex came within 30 seconds, and you could see the shock on Cena's face. This wasn't supposed to happen this fast. This wasn't the script. But Lesnar hit another one. And another one. And another one. 16 German suplexes in total, each one more devastating than the last, each one exposing Cena's limitations more than the previous. The crowd went from chanting Cena's name to sitting in stunned silence, watching their hero get tossed around like a rag doll. And here's the thing that makes this even more infuriating, Cena tried his comeback. He hit the shoulder blocks, he went for the 5-knuckle shuffle, he even hoisted Lesnar up for the attitude adjustment. For a brief moment, everyone thought maybe, just maybe, Super Cena would pull off another miracle. But Lesnar kicked out at 1. Not 2, not a dramatic near fall, but 1. He kicked out at 1 and smiled, as if to say your best isn't good enough, it never was, and it never will be. What happened next wasn't wrestling, it was a message being sent to everyone in that locker room and everyone watching at home. Lesnar didn't just want to win, he wanted to humiliate. He wanted to strip away the mythology that WWE had spent a decade building around John Cena. Every F5 that connected, every time Cena's body crashed into the mat, it was another nail in the coffin of the Superman booking that had made casual fans turn on Cena in the first place. The irony is delicious, isn't it? The company that protected Cena for years, that had him overcoming possible odds week after week, suddenly fed him to Snake in a way that made those years of dominance seem like a complete joke. It was as if Vince McMahon himself looked at the camera and said, "You wanted reality. Here's your reality. Your hero is nothing compared to a legitimate beast." The commentators tried to salvage it. Michael Cole's voice cracked as he called the action, trying desperately to make sense of the carnage. They talked about Cena's heart, his never-give-up attitude, but words ring hollow when the man you're praising is getting thrown around like he's never been in a fight before. Jerry Lawler sat there speechless for stretches, and even JBL, who typically relished in Cena's struggles, seemed uncomfortable with the level of destruction. This wasn't competitive, this wasn't a classic back-and-forth encounter that WWE prides itself on. This was systematic annihilation, and everyone knew it. Social media exploded during the match, with fans divided between those celebrating Cena finally getting his comeuppance and those horrified at seeing their childhood hero exposed so thoroughly. But let's talk about what this really meant for the landscape of WWE. For years, we'd been told that John Cena was the guy, the top star, the man who could hang with anyone and beat everyone when it mattered most. Wrestlepalooza shattered that illusion completely. It proved that when faced with legitimate, overwhelming force, all the hustle in the world means nothing. All the loyalty means nothing. All the respect means nothing. Brock Lesnar represented something WWE had moved away from, genuine physicality and combat credibility. He's a former UFC heavyweight champion, a man who conquered both professional wrestling and mixed martial arts at the highest levels. Putting him against Cena wasn't just a wrestling match, it was symbolically pitting reality against entertainment, and reality won in the most decisive fashion possible. The aftermath of Wrestlepalooza changed everything. Cena was never quite the same after that night. Sure, he came back and won more championships, continued to main event, but that aura of invincibility was gone forever. Everyone had seen him broken, not by trickery or interference, but by pure physical dominance. Lesnar, meanwhile, ascended to a level that made him seem like he existed in a different universe than the rest of the roster. His part-time status, his special attraction appeal, it all made sense after what he did to Cena. Why would you need Brock Lesnar every week when one appearance from him could rewrite the entire power structure of your company? The most frustrating part about all of this is how WWE tried to walk it back in subsequent years. They tried to give Cena his wins back, tried to restore some competitive balance to their encounters, but it was too late. The damage was done. You can't unsee what happened at Wrestlepalooza. You can't forget those 16 German splexes, you can't forget Cena's body being broken, you can't forget the look of helplessness that contradicted everything his character was supposed to represent. WWE learned a hard lesson that night. When you build someone up as unstoppable for too long, the moment they get stuck becomes defining in ways you can't control. They wanted to elevate Lesnar, and they succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, but they sacrificed their top star's credibility to do it. So here we are, years later, still talking about the night Brock Lesnar destroyed John Cena at Wrestlepalooza. We're still debating whether it was brilliant booking or character assassination. We're still arguing about whether Cena deserved that level of humiliation or if WWE went too far in their attempt to make Lesnar look unstoppable. But here's what we know for certain. That match changed the trajectory of both men's careers and altered how WWE approaches dominant monster characters. It proved that sometimes, the audience doesn't want 50-50 booking or competitive matches where everyone looks strong. Sometimes, they want to see dominance, real dominance, consequences that matter, and outcomes that feel earned rather than manufactured by committee. Lesnar vs. Cena at Wrestlepalooza gave us that, for better or worse, and wrestling has never been quite the same since. Now tell me in the comments, did WWE go too far that night, or did Cena finally get what was coming to him? Make sure you subscribe because we're just getting started exposing the truth behind wrestling.